tragic case of hate, justice served in Pennsylvania. In small towns and close-knit communities, we often expect harmony and unity. However, in 2008, the town of Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, bore witness to a tragedy rooted in hate and prejudice, unraveling beneath its modest and peaceful façade. This is the story of Luis Ramirez, a young Mexican immigrant whose life came to a devastating end, and how his death became a pivotal case in exposing the destructive force of hate crimes. Through his story, we seek not only to reflect on this horrifying incident, but also to encourage awareness and prevention of such acts in the future. Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, a small working-class town with a rich coal mining history, held the hallmarks of a struggling community. Economic hardship and shifting demographics created underlying tensions. Over the years, an influx of immigrant families seeking better opportunities altered Shenandoah's cultural and social fabric. For some, these changes brought worry, fear, and ultimately bias. Sadly, these ingredients merged into a volatile mix, leading to the fatal confrontation that changed this town forever. Luis Ramirez was a 25-year-old Mexican immigrant who moved to Shenandoah in search of the American dream. He was a loving fiancé, a father to 2 children, and a hard worker. Living as an undocumented immigrant, Ramirez faced the obstacles of discrimination, cultural adjustment, and economic instability. Yet, despite these challenges, he dreamed of building a future for his young family. For many, Ramirez was a representative of the immigrant experience, hopeful yet vulnerable, bringing hard work and ambition to a nation of opportunity. But the same qualities that made him hopeful also made him a target. And on a warm summer evening in 2008, his life was taken in a horrifying act of violence. On July 12, 2008, Ramirez's path crossed with a group of high school football players, Brandon Piekarski, Derek Donchak, and their friends, as they walked through Shenandoah. Accounts of what triggered the initial confrontation vary, but what followed was a brutal escalation of events. The teenagers hurled verbal insults peppered with racial slurs at Ramirez before the situation turned physical. The group attacked Ramirez, punching and kicking him repeatedly. Among the critical blows was a kick to Ramirez's head once he was already on the ground. This was determined to be the fatal one. The ferocity of the attack left him unconscious and critically injured. Bystanders, including some of the attacker's friends, witnessed the assault, but did little to stop it. Luis Ramirez was rushed to the hospital where he succumbed to his injuries 2 days later. The assault robbed a young man of his future and dashed the hopes of a family who depended on his love and support. Shockwaves quickly spread through the Shenandoah community. Local authorities initially pursued charges against Piekarski and Donchak, but the case faced obstacles. The pair was charged with simple assault and other misdemeanors, and a jury in state court later acquitted them of the most serious charges, including murder. The initial outcome left many, especially Ramirez's family, feeling betrayed by the justice system. The perception lingered that local factors, community biases, and the attackers' social standing as beloved football players played a role in the weak handling of the case. Fortunately, the case didn't end there. Following pressure from advocates and national media attention, federal prosecutors stepped in. They presented a compelling argument. The attack on Ramirez was no random scuffle. It was a hate crime. Under federal law, hate crimes target victims based on their race, ethnicity, religion, or other traits, often with the intent of terrorizing entire communities. Prosecutors argued that Piekarski and Donchak's actions were driven by deep-seated racial animosity, as evidenced by their use of racial slurs and the nature of their unprovoked assault. In a federal trial, Piekarski and Donchak were convicted of a hate crime and sentenced to 9 years in prison. This verdict sent a clear message. Acts of hate would face accountability on the highest levels. For Ramirez's loved ones, the justice served brought a mix of relief and heartbreak. No sentence could undo the loss of Luis or repair the emotional scars left in the wake of his death. Luis's fiancée, his children, and his community were left grieving a man known for his kindness and determination. Beyond personal grief, the family became unwilling advocates for justice, raising awareness about the devastating impact of hate crimes and the importance of judicial accountability. In Shenandoah, the aftermath of the case revealed a community divided. While some mourned Ramirez's death and criticized the initial handling of the case, others rallied behind the two young men convicted of the hate crime. Familiar narratives of boys being boys and discrediting immigrants emerged in defense of the attackers. This division revealed the lingering tensions and biases within the town, mirroring a larger national reckoning with attitudes toward immigration and race. The murder of Luis Ramirez highlights the insidious nature of hate crimes. These acts are not random. They are calculated and rooted in prejudice. The intent is often to send a chilling message not just to the victim, but to an entire community. Hate crimes destabilize families, foster fear and mistrust, and weaken the fabric of society. Cases like Ramirez's underscore the importance of not only prosecuting hate crimes, but also addressing their root causes: ignorance, systemic inequality, and normalized bigotry. The conviction of Piekarski and Donchak under federal hate crime statutes marked a vital precedent, showcasing the government's commitment to combating racial violence. Prosecutors had to prove that the attack on Ramirez was motivated by his ethnicity, a complicated bar to meet in hate crime cases. This case became a turning point, emphasizing the importance of robust hate crime legislation and the need to strengthen protections for vulnerable individuals and communities. Despite this success, prosecuting hate crimes remains fraught with challenges. Racial motivation can be difficult to prove, as it often relies on circumstantial evidence or witnesses willing to testify to the perpetrator's intent. Doubt and bias within communities can also hinder justice. The weaknesses in the initial investigation and prosecution of this case offer important lessons. Law enforcement must be adequately trained in identifying and handling hate crimes. Immediate and thorough action is crucial in ensuring that justice prevails. The tragic death of Luis Ramirez reminds us of an essential truth. Hate is learned, but it can also be unlearned. Education, awareness, and community action are critical in preventing hate crimes. It's vital to foster spaces where differences are celebrated, not condemned. Neighborhoods, schools, and workplaces must intentionally build inclusivity. Initiatives that encourage dialogue between diverse groups can dispel stereotypes and promote mutual understanding. Moreover, communities need resources to address and report potential hate crimes. Law enforcement, advocacy groups, and community leaders must work together to ensure that victims are protected and attackers held accountable. Each of us has a role to play. Stand up when witnessing acts of intolerance, support diverse voices in your community, and challenge prejudice wherever it appears. Luis Ramirez is more than the victim of a hate crime. He is a symbol of resilience, hope, and the ongoing battle against hate. His death serves as a somber reminder of the human cost of prejudice, but also as a rallying cry for justice and equality. By telling his story, we hope to honor his memory and inspire action. While we cannot bring Luis back, we can ensure that his life and the tragedy of his passing continues to shed light on the importance of fighting for a world free of hate. As we reflect on this tragic case from Shenandoah, Pennsylvania, we are left with difficult but essential questions. How do we as a society confront hate when it manifests? How do we prevent more lives from being stolen by prejudice and violence? We live in a world where hate may destroy, but justice, understanding, and awareness have the potential to rebuild. Luis Ramirez's story, though heartbreaking, can be a source of education and a call for change. Each of us has the power to choose compassion over contempt, action over silence, and courage over apathy. Let us honor the legacy of those like Luis Ramirez by committing ourselves to a future where hate will find no home, where every life is valued and diversity is celebrated, not punished.